Hey Vitogate League, it's your commish Noah, and we're back at it for the PR week 3. I'm gonna say this is the don't call it a comeback edition because last week we were promised, or maybe not promised, but it was really hyped up that we were gonna get some T&V. For those who don't know what T&V is, that's the true and virtuous. The PR was supposed to happen. Not sure if it got canceled or what, but that's why I didn't have one last week, and I've decided to step up for week 3 and give you guys the content that you crave. So, T&V, is it just a mirage? I'm pretty sure it's always has been. Like, he has not stepped up to the plate. I don't know why. He came in, kind of made it seem like it was such an easy thing to do, and then maybe he just realized that it's a lot more work than what it's made up to be. But we may never know what T&V truly could have been. RIP T&V 2019 to 2020 in our hearts, but really it never happened. All right, let's head into the pickup of the week here. We got Antoine with Devontae Freeman. So, a little bit of caveat here. Antoine drafted Freeman in the 17th round, I believe, of the draft. So he could have had him later, and then he dropped him, and then he picked him up again. So now he'll be a 10th round keeper if he does anything. He probably won't do anything, so this won't matter. But he did have him, he dropped him, but he picked him back up again before the hype, so he didn't even have to spend any fab on him. So nice pickup. And I'm gonna give the actual fab usage pickup to Josh. He got Robbie Anderson for 17 bucks, I believe. Pretty decent pickup considering Robbie's like the number 2 there solidly. He's fighting for number 1. He could be the 1B, I guess, to DJ Moore's 1A. And yeah, he's getting lots of targets. He's getting lots of yards. So that was a pretty good pickup by Josh there. Let's head over to the dump of the week. And do you guys think you know who it is? Because it's Sterling for one, picking up Mac for $5 when he was already out for the season. And to do that, he put Mims on his second IR spot when he already had someone on IR that wasn't COVID. So he lost Mims, and then he ends up dropping Mac later on. So it's kind of just like a little bit of a kerfuffle. And like, why would you even do that, man? That's just like, that's poor management right there, honestly. All right, we're heading into the rankings. I'm trying to make this a little bit faster because, it's pretty late. I just finished watching James Robinson kind of destroy the Dolphins, so that might play into the rankings here. We'll see. All right, at number 10, we got Nick. So this is the first D ranking I'm giving to any position this year, and it's to your running back core, Nick. It's not looking very good. You got Raheem Mostert injured, you got Le'Veon Bell injured, you got Tevin Coleman injured, you got one more player injured, I know as well. I can't think of his name right now, but you do have quite a bit of injuries in your RB room, and really, like you're hoping for the best by starting Gibson and Hines. Sure, Gibson could break out, and you're really hoping he breaks out because that's what's going to keep your team afloat. And Naheem Hines, he was really like not doing anything that last game. Jonathan Taylor kind of ran away with it, so we'll see if that's something the coaches want to continue or if they want to kind of bring it back. Lamar, that that Baltimore team is so good that Lamar does not have to do as much this year, so it might not be great for his fantasy outlook. Still giving him an S just because it's Lamar Jackson, and he faces the Chiefs this week, so he's gonna have to throw and run and give you lots of fantasy points. Your receiver core, kind of meh, hasn't moved at all. Tight end core, Fant, I did give you a boost. I jumped you from a C to a B just because Fant has shown that he is that breakout tight end that people thought he was. And your bench is again injured and not the best I would say. So sorry Nick, but you're in the dumpster here. And number 9, Sterling, not moving at all. I did change up some of his rankings, um, where I kind of just like tweaked them a little bit. Basically, your running back core is still the old running back core. Um, they did pump out some points for you last week. You get Godwin back, so that's nice. I almost bumped you up. In the receiver core, I decided to just leave it. Your tight end, hopefully Jonnu can blow up like he did last week again, because Gronk was a zero for you. So I can easily see your tight end moving up there. And Dak Prescott has been throwing, slinging in garbage time, so he's kind of keeping you in those games, which is nice to see. So I got you at 9 there, Sterling. Sorry. Jaden at 8, so he's moving up 2 spots, um, mostly because of that man on the screen right there, Jonathan Taylor. He is the #1 running back of that team, and they are going to run him into the ground. So it'll be interesting to see um, if the splits will be more like the first game or like the second game. So the first game, obviously, when Mac went down, Naheem Hines was still very much a part of the plans. And then in the second game, Naheem Hines had one touch, I believe, or one carry. So it'll be interesting to see if Taylor can still be that workhorse that everyone thinks he can be. Um, Eckler is ceding a lot of touches to Joshua Kelly, so that's something to look for. Uh, but I bumped up your QB slot because Matt Ryan has just been slinging it, and that Falcons team is abysmal on defense, which makes it so that the offense needs to score a lot of points to stay in games, and Matt Ryan can do that. Um, yeah, I mean, your receivers are kind of meh, as showed in today's game where Parker almost got you 10, Chenault got you 6, so um, be interesting to see if your other guys can step it up to continue your your dominant last week, where you had the second most points, I believe, in the league. Let's move on. James, this is the other D ranking I'm given. I'm giving that to your receivers. Um, I don't really like your receiver depth, especially after Lockett and maybe Boyd, I guess. Um, Mike Williams is such a hit or miss prospect, or not prospect, but player where he's gonna give you those one-handed catches, but like one or two a game, and that's maybe it. So it'll be interesting to see what Herbert can do with Williams because it seemed like Tyrod was targeting him a little bit more, and Herbert was liking Keenan Allen a little bit more. That's another thing I should have mentioned in the previous um, ranking of Jaden was I moved him up a little bit, also just because Keenan Allen and Eckler were doing a lot better with Herbert, getting a lot more targets than they were with Tyrod Taylor, which could hurt Mike Williams for James because he needs him with Cortland Sutton being out. The running back situation is a little bit dire considering James Conner and Joe Mixon aren't really um, living up to the hype of the second, third round picks that they were supposed to be. Um, so we'll see if they get more touches. Jerick McKinnon could have a pretty nice few weeks with Raheem Mostert and Coleman out, and a lot of that actually offense being out. So he could get a lot of touches and pay off for you. Josh Jacobs' injury does hurt you a little bit there. You do have some depth in Gaskin, but yeah, I mean, you sure have a good QB in Russell Wilson, but he's not going to be enough to carry your team. You're going to have guys like Andrews actually play to their ceiling, I feel, to pull off some wins here. Antoine ranks in at #6. I believe he was #4 in week 1, so moving down a few slots. I mean, that's kind of easy to figure out that he would move down just with the loss of Barkley. That's such a huge hole that you have to fill. Um, he's going to try and do it with Freeman and Lewis. Um, I don't even know if he started. I don't think he's starting them this week, so it'll be interesting to see where his flex spot goes, just with um, yeah Barkley being down and he has to kind of call up from his bench. Um, he's got Edwards-Helaire and Elliott still, so you can't really move him past an A. But Breeze not performing as well. He got dropped from his team, and Ryan Tannehill's coming in to replace him. So we'll see what that what that can if that can make a spark in this team. But really, it's an uphill climb without Barkley. So At least he gets Kenny Galladay back, and he also picked up Russell Gage, which will be a fine option for a flex. And so, yeah, you got kind of a middle of the pack receiver group. You got a middle of the pack bench as well, but lacking in QB and tight end, which could hurt you there. Dylan at number 5. Again, very consistent. I don't think I changed any of his rankings. Um, just because like it's just like such a meddling team, right? Right, that 4 to 6 range where like he's a good team, but he's not really gonna be wowing you with points. Um, that's kind of where his RBs are at, right? You got Kenny and Drake and Chris Carson. Like Chris Carson's been doing really good lately, with touchdowns. But if those touchdowns fall, he's gonna be having a hard time getting a lot of points there. Josh Allen, though, I was sleeping on Josh Allen this year. Lots of people were hyping him up, saying he was gonna take that next step. I just didn't believe it because his college tape was bad, and in his first few years he was not very accurate. But Stephon Diggs has really helped him out. So moving him up to an A tier there for the QBs. And I was debating on moving his receivers down just because of AJ Brown kind of being on and off on the injury report. But Slayton and Julian Edelman have really picked up the slack there, so I couldn't really move him down at all in that position. We'll have to keep an eye on Waller. Waller, the only reason why the tight end is B here and on A is just because Waller is injured this week and we don't know if he's going to be able to go. Tyson. Tyson moved up from 7 to 4, and that may or may not be because he beat me. And then he did lose to Sterling, but he did beat me week 1, so he kind of assumed that he'd be on the top of the list here just because if you beat Noah, you got to move up. So it makes sense that he's 4, I guess. Patrick Mahomes, so nothing to really complain about at the QB position per se. Um, DeAndre Hopkins has really been pulling his own weight. He has the most targets in the league, joining a new team, which is something I didn't expect. So it's been really, really nice for him. But other than that, his receiver core is kind of lacking. Like you got AJ Green who can't catch the ball, it seems. He got so many targets last week, but he couldn't really reel anything in. And Lazard, who's kind of the 2/3, probably more the 3 receiver in Green Bay. So, and then you got Marquise Brown though. Marquise Brown is going to be that guy who has a lot of boom weeks, some bust weeks, so we'll have to see if he can get a boom for him. Almost did move the receivers up to an A, but I just couldn't do it. Although, that being said, the running backs I did move up because Aaron Jones is killing it out there. He had like a uh, 36% snap share on that offense in Green Bay, and he came away with 43 fantasy points, which is just ridiculous. Like he is the guy in Green Bay. Not sure why they're not using him more. If they start using him more, it could be really bad because then his boom weeks are gonna kind of be his normal weeks, which is gonna be very scary. And Derrick Henry is just getting so many carries. It's like what happened at the end of last year. He's just continuing to get his carries. Um, and I was going to move the tight end down because Ingram hasn't really been doing that great. However, Gesicki has been getting a lot of targets and been proving himself. Although I say that, and he only had 3 targets this game. It was, and only 1 catch, but it was a touchdown. So he at least salvaged that points for this. But yeah, he salvaged it, but your bench isn't going to salvage you anything. You don't really have a strong bench, and I kind of mentioned that last time. What's holding you back, I believe. But I mean, if your starters are great, then you can just win that matchup and then worry about bye weeks later, you know? All right, Ramy, I moved you down too. I know, but you know why. You lost Christian McCaffrey. And this guy on your screen, Mike Davis, do you think that he can replace him? Not even close. Not even close. Christian McCaffrey is a different breed, and there's no way you're going to be able to replace him. You will be able to get some points with Mike Davis, I believe, though. He had 8 targets last week, and 7 of them were in the fourth quarter. So I mean, he will get those garbage time targets. He'll get some garbage time points. So um, we will have to figure out if it's going to be a thing where he can at least give you uh, like 60% of McCaffrey, 50% of McCaffrey while he's gone. And then, well, he's gone. Well, McCaffrey's gone for at least 3 weeks. So we'll have to see there what what impact it's going to make on this team because the receiving core is doing real good. Real good. The only reason it's on this is because he's got two questionables. He's got Juju and Adams as questionables. Adams sat out last week, could sit out again this week. So monitoring that. And yeah, I mean, Fournette broke out, maybe. I don't know. I think he got 71 yards in his last two carries, which really skewed his box score. Although, I mean, you can't look at the box score and take out the biggest run because that was a run that he did. So you can't just take that away from him. But it does skew it a little bit, I believe. And he's just streaming quarterbacks, so it's kind of a C, but really it's based off of matchups. So he's trying to pick the right matchups and play them. So you can kind of see that as a lower tier B. And that bench is just great. You got so much depth. CD Lamb there on your bench. You're probably never even going to use him, but he's going to be really good sitting there looking pretty. All right, number two is Josh. With that swag level of a quarterback, I can't believe I didn't put him number one, honestly. Kyler Murray has been destroying so far. He's been rushing like crazy, getting all those touchdowns with his legs, and he's also thrown a few with his arms. So really, really stepping up for you was a great pick as the third QB. Um, you got your running backs still scoring touchdowns, still getting yards. Dalvin Cook, Miles Sanders doing good. But other than that, you got what, J.K. Dobbins, and then really nothing after that because Ronald Jones might have just lost his job. So it's looking a little bit dire for your depths at running back, but you got the two stalwarts, which should hold it down for you. Julio and his hamstring. Julio's hamstring ain't doing too hot. You can tell. You could tell in that game. There was a nice Russell Gage throw, but Julio just couldn't get to that speed, and he even mentioned it in his interview that he just couldn't get there because he's not running like he's normally able to with that hamstring injury. So I'll have to see if that catches up to him. Cooper Kupp though had a nice bounce back game, a lot of targets, didn't find the end zone, so it was kind of like, well, you got 10 points, which is nice because you got the targets, but you really hope for a little bit more there. And Scary Terry was back to being um, the number one in Washington. So, um, yeah. And George Kittle, we'll see if he comes back. If he doesn't come back, could hurt the team because Cook was not the promised player when Michael Thomas is down. You would expect Cook to be a little bit better than how he played last week. So, and then you obviously got the best bench quarterback in the league, Cam Newton. We'll see if he ever makes your actual roster, like starting lineup, because Kyler's just been stomping. And I know, like number one, like this feeling that I got is like the same feeling that's on Jameis Winston's face. Like, should I put myself number one? I don't know. Like, obviously there's some issues with my team. Michael Thomas has got an injury. Chark's got an injury. Thomas could be back this week, but I don't know if I'm holding out hope for that. The thing is, I've got players coming out of the woodworks that are just popping off. As I mentioned before, James Robinson got me 28 points in the Thursday night game, and I've got players where I drafted them lower, they kind of slid, like Kareem Hunt, um, Kelly, um, and James Robinson, where they can come into my starting lineup, and I'm actually considering benching like my third round running back in Chubb. Never considering benching Kamara, but I feel like I've got a lot of depth at this point in my running back position where I can easily go just based off a matchup and I could feel good about who I'm starting each week. The receivers, a little bit lacking, as I mentioned, with injuries. Um, Rager's also out, so really, I might only have three healthy receivers this week, which is why I gave myself a B ranking, because I still have Woods and Moore, which are healthy. So those guys are kind of are stronger plays, and I kind of fell a little bit in the draft. So um, yeah, I mean Higby went huge with 3 touchdowns. I don't expect that every week, but I did bump up my tight end position slightly. I was considering lowering my QB play or my QB position just because Watson kind of hasn't been that guy, but he's had very tough matchups in Baltimore, and KC's actually not that difficult, but he's got Pittsburgh this week, which will be another difficult matchup, and I don't think I'll be starting him. So that's the rankings. Here's the stock market, just showing kind of all the teams and where I've got them ranked. Um, my rankings are fairly similar to Fantasy Pros. There's a little bit of difference. Like they've got Jaden 10 by quite a bit, and I've actually got him at 8. And then I believe I've got Antoine down a little bit further and Dylan up more, just because I feel Dylan's team's a little more consistent than Antoine and James's team. So that's PR, guys. Sorry if it sounds like I'm kind of a little bit scramble brained. It's pretty late, and I was just trying to get this out for the boys because I know you guys really wanted it. Well, so I'll see you guys next week, and hopefully I can win so that I can prove that the number one spot is where I belong. All right, peace.